Edgy and Amazing Man here.
Atheism, according to the American Atheist's website, is simply a rejection of the assertion that there are gods. Atheism is too often defined incorrectly as a belief system. Thus, to be clear, atheism is not a disbelief in gods or a denial of gods. It is a lack of belief in gods. Okay, fine. But good God, and no pun intended, try critiquing this lack of belief in God, and the more vocal and smarmy among this community reacts with just as much vitriol and self-righteous indignation as the most fervent devotee to religion.
So what? Even if true, what argument is this? Oh, look, they complain just as much. When you criticize a lack of belief, they'll defend their position. I'm so surprised that people would support their own position if you attack it. Like, wow, that's amazing to me. I didn't think that people would actually respond if I attacked their... They're just supposed to be quiet and not say anything when I pick on the position of there not being a God or disbelieving in God or atheism. I can just say whatever I want about atheists, and I should just be allowed to say that without without them always being so vitriol and responding and being so angry about stuff. And why are they picking on people? And it's just, why can't I just say whatever I want and not have any response at all? I mean, they just don't believe in stuff. I mean, like, if I talk about leprechauns, or if I go after disbelief in leprechauns, like, nobody's gonna go after that, right? Like, why can't they just leave us alone? Persecution complex. Yeah. Deal with it. When anybody makes any sort of argument for or against something, there will be somebody else that argues the other side of that. And whether they do it in a vitriol way, or in a nice and kind way, or in a sarcastic way, or in a bad way, or whatever way they do it, that's what we should expect to happen. And what we should hope happens is that somebody says, hey, wait a minute, let's talk about this idea. Let's argue against it. Let's pick it apart. And if you want to do that to a non-belief of God, okay, then expect people that don't believe in God to respond to your criticisms. Maybe they want to clarify points. Maybe they want to show you how your argument sucks, or how you don't really even have an argument. Just an idea.
So let's be clear, this is not to say that the vast majority of atheists who, like the vast majority of the religious, are happy to keep their beliefs or lack thereof to themselves and don't feel the need to broadcast their ideology or their lack of belief to the world incessantly and ad nauseum.
The majority of believers and non-believers are silent. I'm sure we're going to get the statistics to show that, the data points and the charts and the no, he doesn't give us that for this statement. It's almost like he just said this because it sounds good and there's no proof for it, you know. But even if it was the case that, let's say, the majority of people were silent about their beliefs or non-beliefs, so what? There's somebody saying that this is a thing that's true, and then what are we going to do? Just go, okay, yeah, that's nice. That's it. You're not going to say anything about that. We're not going to respond to that. So I just want everyone to shut up and not say anything. I just want everyone to be silent. Is that what you're saying, Black Pigeon? Is that what you're advocating for here? Because I don't know what else it could be. It's just like, the majority of believers are quiet about their beliefs. The majority of non-believers are quiet about their beliefs. So why is it that these few non-believers have to be so noisy about their beliefs. Yeah, the believers do that too, but I'm not complaining about them right now. I'm complaining about the non-believers. Why do they have to be just as annoying as the believers? Why can't they just, if they would just be quiet, then, well, I would have a lot of noisy believers, but that's better than having two sides to the discussion, I guess. How does this work again, Black Pigeon?
But there are at least your garden variety YouTube skeptic or atheists that have shown time after time to have very little understanding of nuance or how human societies actually work.
Lack of nuance. Saying lack of nuance against your opponent as you make a video strictly about a subset of some atheists that you're apparently irritated at, while showing absolutely no nuance about their arguments, viewpoints, or why it is that they might be doing the things that they do. Wow. Just wow. I don't even know what to call that. Just, okay. Yeah. They don't have a lack of nuance, unlike me. Haha. What kind of complaint is that, even if true? Let's just say that, this subset of people that you're making a complaint about, because it is a subset, otherwise you're constructing a straw man. But let's just say that, they had no nuance. They just were completely attacking theism. They were an anti-theist through and through. And so what? Attack the argument, not the way that they made the argument, not the sort of person that it is, not their looks, not how they sound like, or if they can spell or say words or whatever. The argument is all that matters. Not the person, not the select few of the group that you have a problem with, but the argument is all that matters.
Which is, and I must stress, very different from the likes of Dawkins and Harris, for example. Which is fine, as this sort of weed-scented lack of belief and the need to shout it to anyone who will listen, while at the same time castigating and ridiculing those that disagree, is obviously coupled with a lack of self-reflection, and for the most part, these self-proclaimed leaders of no belief have an almost cartoonish understanding of theology, history, and human nature.
What? What the bleep is this? Okay, so Dawkins and Harris, they're really good atheists. But here's TJ, the amazing atheist. He's not a good atheist because of the reasons that I'll complain about starting now. And I do have to shame the Black Pigeon for one thing here. TJ has never said that he's the leader of atheists. Now, if you can find a counterexample to that, I'd be willing to wager that he has said that in a sarcastic way. But at least give me a video clip of him saying that he's the leader of atheists, or give me a screenshot of when he wrote that or something. Don't just say that that's true. Because I just don't believe that it is. And I've seen not everything he's done. I've seen some stuff. I just don't buy it. I don't think that he's ever said that. So if you're going to make that claim, support that claim. Because otherwise I think you're just lying. You're just saying that because it's something to say. But even if it was true that TJ had declared himself the leader of atheists, he is one person. It doesn't matter that he's got a big following. He's just a guy that happens to be an atheist. He was like the first atheist on YouTube. Not the first, of course, but the first one to make stuff and get noticed and get big. Maybe somebody else is actually technically first, but he's the first one to get big out of doing that. So it's a good target. It's a great target to go after, because maybe I can upset him and then he'll make a video about my video and be really angry and irritated and then I'll cause some drama and get some of his people over to see my stuff, and they'll complain about what I said here, and if nothing else, it'll drive some traffic my way. But that's pretty cynical, isn't it, Black Pigeon? I mean, you're not just making a video to cause drama, are you? And I don't think you are, and here's why. Your formula is insult the thing that you're about to talk about, give some data about it, and then complain a little bit more at the end. That's pretty much your formula. And hey, it works for you. I'm not saying it doesn't. I watch you because I don't always agree with everything you say, and I want to watch and hear people that I don't agree with so I don't wind up in a stupid echo chamber. You know, that whole nuance thing that you were saying that we don't have, apparently, or at least some subset of atheists don't have, because they're noisy, and apparently somehow you also know that they don't know that much about theology. How you know that, who knows, but you just know that they don't know that, and they don't know history, and they don't know this, and they don't know that. I don't know why it would be important if they did or didn't know that, but okay, fine. And additionally, you are able to mind read and just know that they don't know that, based on the way they make their videos, I suppose. Look, attack the argument. Attack the argument. That's all. Just, I mean, if you're gonna go after TJ, and that seems what you're doing now, then go after him. But you can't say that this is an example of a subset of atheists. You just can't. What? Oh, I'm just being told now that he's about to say that TJ is a template and an example of atheists. Oh, boy, me.
I should also preface that myself, as I've said previously, am not religious, but consider myself agnostic. Thus, I'm not actually critiquing a belief that I have or one that I don't have. I'm simply showing that militant atheists who shout in the same vein as Marxists about the eventual triumph of the revolution, that the world is leaving behind the lie, the superstition, the stupidity of religion.
It's too stupid. And yeah, I will say that people who believe it are deluded, and I will say that people who believe it are stupid, because it is delusional and stupid. I mean, it's a fucking lie. It sets people against the truth. That's a stupid way of looking at the world.
But don't get me wrong, I realize that the vast majority of atheists don't spurg out like the amazing atheist. But he provides the template stereotype of atheist neckbeard spitting on anyone that disagrees with his quote-unquote truth. And arguments like the ones presented by the amazing atheist are as empty in substance as the vacuum of nothingness that encapsulates the atheist's lack of belief in anything. And the key thing here is not whether atheism or theism is right or wrong, but the fact that atheism isn't growing, it's withering.
Alright, we're finally past the part where you insult the thing that you're about to give data points on, and on to the data. So here's some data that you've found that seems to support the point that you're trying to make, which is that atheism is on the decline. Or at least that religion is on the rise. One is not the same as the other. Okay, fine, great. And that doesn't mean much of anything, although it kinda does. It just means that, well, atheists aren't breeding as much as theists are. And, by the way, I think that the none category, that is, people that are non-religious or proclaim that they don't particularly follow any religion, that is on the rise as a separate thing that is not atheism per se. But okay. So religious people are having way more kids than us atheists, and I personally volunteer my services to help any woman out there to have as many atheist babies as they want, or at least try to create some atheist babies with her. Lots of women. I'm single. Please send women my way. I put that in there so that, you know, somebody can complain about that I brought up that I'm single and be distracted from my argument. You know, I gotta include stuff like that in there. But you know, all this talk about who's winning in terms of numbers made me think of this movie that you might have heard of. Yes, the utopian dystopian film Idiocracy. In this film, in the very beginning, there is a very true statement made about human evolution. That it doesn't care who wins. It's a blind force. So it shows that the dumb people, the redneck people, the, not too smart people are having kids left and right. Meanwhile, the smarter people, well, they're going to wait to have their kid, and eventually the guy dies, so she doesn't have any kids at all. And, yeah, atheists are smarter about having kids, and also there is other reasons why people tend to have less children, and that's a problem not just for atheism, but for everybody, especially if we're going to consider the world as a whole. Muslims seem to be beating everybody else out in terms of breeding. And it's not all Muslims that are Islamic, but an awful lot of Islamics happen to be Muslim. And that is a problem when you suddenly have a bunch of them rush into a country, especially that country that is run on democracy, because now the people that are in politics have to start considering this large number of voices that suddenly has appeared and kowtowing to get their votes. And then you wind up with bad situations. So, yeah, it might be the case that the religious people outbreed the atheists. Did we have empirical evidence and or a repeatable test? Why, yes, we were given some data. Data that showed that religious people are becoming more abundant in the world and that atheists are becoming less abundant in the world, based on purely what we were shown. And that's all we were given. That's the only thing to walk away from this video with. And that one data point has no relation or causation to the argument that some subset of atheists give bad arguments. There's nothing to connect those two together. So we did not have a valid and sound argumentation. Wasn't logically coherent. So what does that mean? It means we have to be skeptical of the conclusion, at least regarding anything to do with atheists having bad arguments, because that, even if true, is irrelevant to the data points that were shown. And what can we make of the fact that there are people that are having more kids that happen to be religious? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why people have children, and it tends to be not just money, but other factors as well. But it does seem that the more educated you are, the less children that you'll have, because you realize having a lot of kids is a bad idea and something that you can't sustain. So if we want to decrease religion, then we need to decrease the population. And if we want to decrease the population, we need to educate, which means that we have to lessen religion, because religion tends to go along with non-education. I'm not saying that religious people are dumb. I'm just saying that it's easier to become religious if you're dumb. But then again, you don't need to be that smart to be an atheist, so what do I know? So, this was a bad argument with some data in it, that we have to be skeptical of the bad argument, and the data is a separate phenomenon. Unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, which wasn't this, we should be skeptical of the conclusions.